Hey there! Have you ever stopped to wonder, why do we make the decisions we make? And why do we sometimes feel so sure of our choices, only to find out later they were, well, a little off? Today, we're diving into the hidden world of cognitive biases, those sneaky little shortcuts our minds take that often lead us astray. If you've ever wondered why you keep making the same mistake, or why a certain choice seems so right until it wasn't, this is for you. Imagine you're at a car dealership. You've already decided on a car, but somehow they mention another model that's just a little more than what you plan to spend. You're feeling tempted, and you start to convince yourself this is actually a better idea. Sound familiar? That's the power of anchoring bias at work. And believe me, it's just the tip of the iceberg. Or how about this? Have you ever clicked on a news story just because it confirms what you already believe? Even if it's only half true? You're not alone. That's called confirmation bias, and it's one of the most common biases out there. We'll dig into why it happens and how to stop it from steering your decisions. What are cognitive biases? Why should you care? First off, let's get clear. Cognitive biases aren't always bad. They're shortcuts our brains take to save time and mental energy. But these shortcuts can lead us down the wrong path. Imagine if every decision in your life was totally logical. Sounds impossible, right? But understanding these biases can help us catch those sneaky moments when our brains try to lead us astray. And trust me, once you see them, you can't unsee them. Save this video. I see you will need to hear it more than one time and reflect on it. And don't forget to share your reflections with us in the comments and subscribe our channel S for Success. Here is the most common cognitive biases you need to know, and trust me, you don't want to miss this. Alright, let's dive into some of the most common cognitive biases. For each one, think about how it might have influenced your own decisions in the past. This self-reflection will help us all become more aware of these mental shortcuts. Confirmation bias. One of the most pervasive biases. Confirmation bias is our tendency to search for, interpret, and remember information that confirms our existing beliefs. This can create a mental filter where opposing ideas are ignored or undervalued. For example, if you strongly believe in a particular diet, you might disregard studies showing different results or highlight only the evidence supporting your belief. Daniel Kahneman discusses confirmation bias in Thinking, Fast and Slow, describing it as a major driver in decision-making processes. He argues that it's often subconscious, where we don't actively seek out conflicting viewpoints because it's uncomfortable to confront our own beliefs. Recognizing confirmation bias is the first step toward minimizing its impact on our decisions. Anchoring bias. Imagine walking into a car dealership and seeing a vehicle priced at $40,000. Even if the salesperson offers a discount, that initial price tag sticks in your mind, setting an anchor that influences your perception of the deal. This is the anchoring bias, where we overly rely on the first piece of information encountered, even if it's random. In Predictably Irrational, Dan Ariely shows how anchoring can sway our decisions, from shopping to negotiating. To avoid anchoring bias, it's helpful to gather information from multiple sources and make a conscious effort to avoid being influenced by that first piece of information. The next one needs you to focus more, so it is better to bring your hot coffee to the scene. Availability heuristic. Ever been more afraid of a plane crash than a car accident, even though statistically, car accidents are far more common? This is the availability heuristic, where we overestimate the likelihood of events based on how easily examples come to mind. For instance, sensational media coverage makes rare events like shark attacks or plane crashes seem more likely, leading to a skewed perception of risk. Steven Pinker explores this in The Better Angels of Our Nature, explaining that although violence has declined over time, we're more fearful because news about violent incidents is widely reported and sticks in our minds. To overcome this bias, try to rely on facts, long-term data, rather than single, vivid anecdotes. Recency bias. Have you ever watched a powerful documentary that changed your views on a subject? Often recency bias makes us place too much emphasis on the latest information we've received, even if it doesn't represent the broader context. This is why we might feel strongly influenced by something we've recently seen or read, forgetting it's just one piece of a bigger puzzle. In Nudge by Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein, recency bias is discussed in the context of financial decisions, where recent stock performance might sway investment choices more than long-term trends. Recognizing this bias can encourage us to take a step back and consider the bigger picture before making a decision. The surprising cost of cognitive biases is that these biases aren't just quirks, they have real-world consequences. Imagine trusting a person based solely on first impressions or making investments based on a recent trend. When we're not aware of our biases, they can lead to costly mistakes in both personal and professional settings. Think about it. Decisions shape everything: your job, your relationships, even your sense of happiness. So it pays to understand how cognitive biases might be leading you off track. Here I have the magic pill for you that may help you out. The practical tips to overcome cognitive biases. All right, let's get into the good stuff, how to actually tackle these biases. Because awareness is key, but practical steps are golden. Mindful decision-making. Slow down. Yes, it's that simple. When you pause before a decision, you give yourself a chance to think instead of react. Seeking diverse perspectives. Try talking to people who see things differently from you. It's uncomfortable but incredibly useful for breaking out of echo chambers and catching those confirmation biases in action. Double-checking information. If a decision feels obvious, double-check it. Ask yourself, am I sure, or is this just the most recent thing I've heard? Practicing this habit helps you avoid recency bias and approach situations with a clear mind. Now that you're aware of cognitive biases, remember, everyone has them. The trick is not to erase them, but to recognize and manage them. So next time you catch yourself rushing a decision or trusting something that feels a little too right, take a step back and think, is this my bias talking? If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to subscribe for our channel, S for Success. Mastering these biases doesn't happen overnight, but with every step, you'll get closer to making clearer, better decisions. Leave a comment if you've ever noticed these biases at work in your life. I'd love to hear your story.